Hey Facebook, Michelle Kramer here, your Live Abundantly Life and Health Coach. Wanted to finish up our series on expectations today. It is Saturday, so as you can see, I have actually no makeup today. This is Michelle in normal. Been working in the yard today. Been doing a lot of stuff all day because it's Saturday, so you get all your errands done and things then on days like that. So you have to forgive that I did not get all fancy for you all today, but I knew that it was important to finish up this series and get you what I believe to be one of the more important topics in this series. So just to kind of recap, over the last few days, we've done this expectation series. Today is part 4. We started with expectations for yourself and expecting, letting those be reasonable. And then we did expectations for physical changes for yourself. And then yesterday was expectations of others. Highly recommend you go back and watch those videos. If you've watched them and found value in them so far, if you would drop a smiley face emoticon or something to that effect in the comments here, I would appreciate it, because it's really great to know that things are helping. So again, today is expectations, our expectations of God. And I wanted to start with, I got some notes here, of course. What's up, Sam? I wanted to start with Proverbs 13:12. It says, unrelenting disappointment leaves you heartsick, but a sudden good break can turn life around. That's found in the Message, which is one of my personal favorites because it always hits right in the heart there. Expectations are beliefs that spring from the mind after processing evidence. And the problem is they're not always accurate because of flaws in our logic and bias that come with hope and desire in our emotions. So one of those things, sorry, my cat is literally like, I have to show you. She was walking behind the camera. Hello, Pixel. This is what happens when you do a live video. So I'm going to put her in my lap so she will no longer interrupt, because that's why she's here. She wants to sit with me. So, cat in the lap. Okay. Yeah, hilarious. All right. So one of the things that is a problem when it comes to our expectations of God is that you really are distracting, is that we humanize him. We humanize God and we put our own human expectations on him for what we want to see happen based upon our hopes and desires. And Isaiah 30:21 says he guides our steps, but not until we need to know. It's a good example of this, okay, is when my husband and I are on a road trip to some degree of anywhere, and he doesn't know where he's going, which we've lived in Springfield together. I grew up here. We've lived here together for 12 years, but he still doesn't know where he's going half the time. So if he's driving and I'm navigating, he is adamant about me telling him, like he will make a turn and then he tells, tell me what the next turn is. And I'll be like, well, you have like 2 miles before you even need to know what the next turn is. And he's like, no, I want to know now. And I think that is kind of how we approach God and our expectations of him. Is it's, okay, well, we've done this thing, so tell me what's next. And God says, no, it's not time to tell you what's next. You've got a little while before you make that next turn. And we're like, no, I want to know now. Tell me now. Why aren't you telling me what's going on? Again, Isaiah 30:21 says he guides our steps, but not until we need to know. Philippians 4:19 explains to us that he knows our needs. And I wanted to touch on that because, and I'm just paraphrasing for time, but I wanted to touch on that because if he knows our needs, then he's going to provide for them. And the issue is when we humanize God and our expectations of him, then we expect him to provide for our needs the way that we think is best rather than what he knows is best. God, the one and only, I'll wait as long as he says. Everything I hope for comes from him. That's Psalm 62:5. And really what it comes down to is realizing that our expectations, well, we really just can't have any expectations of God because he's God, and what he does in our lives can far exceed anything that we can think of. And that actually reminds me of one of my favorite verses, and it's Ephesians 3:20. God is able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond all that we ask or think. So whatever your expectations of God may be, he can actually far exceed them to the point that you can't even fathom what God is capable of doing. So putting expectations on God is pretty pointless in reality, because you can't know what he's up to. You can't know what he's going to do. Jeremiah 29:11 says that, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And if we grasp that, if we cling to Jeremiah 29:11 and Ephesians 3:20, and we know that God's going to exceed our expectations, so why have them? Then I think that helps us to have a more joyful life. If we're just putting things in God's hands and not being expectant. And really, I mean, God is going to, are you interested? God is, of course, going to forgive us, and God is, of course, going to love us. And those are definitely expectations we can have, because the word tells us that that is who God is. But expectations of what he does in our everyday lives, and when we're praying for things and what we're wanting God to do, we can't put expectations. We can't put him in a box. We can't humanize him. We've got to just let God be God and just kind of be along for the ride. So I hope that this series on expectations has helped you in one way or another. If you feel that others need to hear it, please feel free to share. These are public posts. And if you've got any comments, I'd love to hear from you. Or you can private message me, because I'm here to help you go through whatever you're going through. So have a wonderful weekend. I won't see you until next week on Facebook Live. So have a great the rest of your weekend.